Sound. That means it's time for Midnight's Edge After Dark. I am Tom Connors. With me is Script Doctor. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty well. All things considered, happy to be here to talk with you gentlemen tonight.
Glad to have you here. And also with me is a man I can't do anything with, include go to the bathroom sometimes. Mike, the Mexican Iron Man.
Arriba.
Well, when I need help sometimes. No, I'm just kidding.
That's what I have the forklift for.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. And also joining us tonight, a very special guest, a very good friend of mine, Mr. Gary Ambrosia. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, sir?
Doing great. For those who may recognize Gary, he's been on the Sunday show. What is it called? Pop Culture Breakdown on Doomcock's channel. We've been on there with him, and I've gotten to know this gentleman over the past year or so, and it has been a pleasure. He's a excellent guy. We're going to talk to him a little bit about what he does for a living for fun and a living, I guess. Because I guess you could consider it both, wouldn't you, Gary?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, he's got an awesome job. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about some minor news going on because there isn't a whole lot going on in the world of entertainment because sadly the world is just going crazy in general right now. But we're not going to discuss that. We're going to help you forget all about all that stuff right now for about an hour or so and just talk about some fun stuff. As we like to call it. And we got some great people in the chat. I just want to say hello to before we get going too far. We got Chris Persia in the house. How you been? Ain't seen you in a while. We got Donnie Pearson here, Dermot McQuaid. I see Mr. Grant Gregory in the house. I think he's going to join us next Tuesday on the show. We got Putin's Cat here. We've got Hamdinger. That's right. I'm here, Hamdinger. We also, let's see here. I saw Neil in the house. How you doing, my friend? We got Mecca J, Duck Nation, Stephanie Janisex here. Bob OM is here. Tina Bojan's here. Rogue Disney's here. Lovely Sherry's here. Shum is here. And so many more of you are coming in. I see Kitty Bear, Conquer Jr., Asian O, Martin Vasquez, and many more. Thank you for being here. I even see Mike in the chat. There you go. See, Mike's in the chat and on the show. But so yeah, we even got Gary in the chat. I'm going to give you a wrench while you're here. Why not? I like giving out wrenches. That way, if you have anything you want to share, like your YouTube channel or anything like that, there you go. So before we get started, for those who don't know Gary, let's get to know Gary a little bit. Gary, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, all that good stuff.
I was born in Monterey, California, which is near San Francisco. I still live here. Nice. I used to work down in Los Angeles on various movie productions and different studios here and there, Universal Studios, Warner Brothers, Disney, you name it. I've probably been on that lot. Did a lot of production design and art department type stuff back in the day. Was involved in a lot of crazy, weird restoration projects for a lot of very famous pieces of Hollywood history. Some I got credit for, some of which I did not. But now just, along on the show with you guys, I work on all kinds of various productions, and my main hobby is restoring little bits and pieces of Hollywood history as far as props and property and just little bits of nostalgia from our favorite films.
Yeah, as we can see right behind you there's all kinds of fun stuff you got there. And that isn't just toys, kids. Those are either replicas or things that Gary has made himself or things he's gotten from the original molds, or aren't some of those the original pieces as well? Oh, you're muted, Gary.
There we go. I don't know if I showed you guys this, but this was a casting of one of the panels from the Ark of the Covenant from Raiders.
Yeah. I think you showed us a different piece, but not that one.
Okay, yeah, this is I pretty much have all the pieces now from the original Ark to build a real Ark. That's right.
Just don't look.
Yeah, I'll keep my eyes closed when I'm building the whole time. Trust me.
You got to. And I see you got that Slimer maquette there. One of these days, that's going to come up missing, and you're not going to know where it went.
Yeah, right. I will let me dig in there and be real careful here, and I'll pull this out for you guys. So
Yeah, don't break the proton pack. That is a Slimer maquette, right? Is it from the original mold?
It's a from the original production. It's from Boss Films. As far as I can tell, I got it from a guy who got it from Michael Gross, who was one of the producers on the film,
Right.
the original Ghostbusters. And I'm pretty sure I saw in a photo of one of the Making Ghostbusters books some of the effects crew with this puppet along with the full-size puppet. So I'm thinking that this was one of the ones they used to go around the chandelier.
Yeah, we were discussing that the other night. It would be the closer shot.
Yeah, that's my theory, because I did see this not only in stone as a maquette, but I did see it run in foam as an animatronic puppet.
And
so
it
I
would
think
make sense why it wouldn't have any arms either, because they would have spun it around really quick to give it that
right.
Just give it the what's the word I'm looking for? The motion blur.
Could be, yeah. I know that there is a place for the arms for this. I think they just did it separately. Yeah, I didn't get the arms with it, but yeah. Well, I was lucky to get this.
I never really realized the back of his head came out so far. That's something they've never really gotten quite right.
Yeah,
and the big butt. I love the big butt.
Yeah, there's this big dimply ass. That's Slimer's real ass right there. But the nice thing about this is these puppets, they rot. The foam rubber puppets rot.
Right.
Somebody was smart enough to get a porcelain plaster, positive of this out of the mold, so that now we have this.
That's awesome.
Or rather, I haven't.
But so outside of preserving Hollywood classic pieces, what productions have you worked on that we may know of, or any movies that you've made yourself, or anything?
Let's see. I worked on Pirates of the Caribbean, parts 2 and 3. I worked on so many movies and TV shows. I did a show called Punked, if you remember, with
yeah, totally.
Yeah, there was an episode, where there was a gorilla that attacked one of the guys, and my buddy Kevin Brennan was playing the gorilla.
Oh, cool.
And I worked on that crew. Let's see. There's been so many movies, awesome. Man. Some of which, like I said, I got credit for, some of which I did not. But I worked for the Jay Leno show. I did set design for the Ellen show. I did.
Was she a bitch?
We can run a whole show on that one.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I won't go into that, but yeah, the very first season was the sets, some of the sets that I designed there. Right. And gosh, there's been so many of them, man. I'd have to look up my own IMDb to remember all this stuff. But
no, you do have a pretty long list on the IMDb, which is cool.
Yeah, and also there's I have about 7 different names on IMDb. So there's a lot more than just what my name is under my name. But I did a whole lot of, I've done bigger budget movies. I've done moderate budget movies. I've done really low budget, like horror and sci-fi TV stuff. Those were always the most fun, because
I'll make it easy on you. Oh,
those were the ones that, you just kind of get to play around on. You get to build all kinds of stuff. And, the people are usually a lot nicer. But
I was going to ask, what was your favorite production you worked on, or what was the favorite piece you ever made?
Let's see. The piece I'm most proud of is I did a lot of the interior work for the Royal Navy ship on Pirates of the Caribbean 2.
Nice.
The detail, the wood detail and stuff. I'm like a craftsman. I work with wood a lot and stuff, and I really loved all the work that I did on that. And there was another set that I worked on that was I don't really remember the movie very well, but there was with the squid face guys playing an organ or something in his ship or something like that. I don't know if you guys remember
Davy
that
Jones
scene. It's something like that. Yeah. He's got like tentacles on his face.
Yeah.
I don't really remember the movie, but there was a set where it was kind of like you're inside a giant ship, but there's these giant barnacles and these, sea cucumber type things.
Yeah,
and we made all that stuff out of foam, and we hand carved all that. And
cool.
I think I was about, 22 when we did that. And that was kind of a new thing for me. I was really proud of all that work.
It is hard to believe how many years ago it's been since those movies have been made.
A long time. But I worked on I worked on lots of monsters, lots of creatures. I'm lucky enough to have some really great friends and mentors and teachers, guys that worked on, I mean, massive movies that we've all been inspired by over the years, and that, like you said, we quote every day. You know,
Yeah.
American Werewolf in London and Ghostbusters, Big Trouble in Little China. I got a lot of great education from a lot of fantastic guys.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. We're so glad to have you here, Gary.
Thanks for
So
having me.
yeah,
I have something
and
to add to the conversation.
absolutely, Mike. Go ahead.
Hold on. Look what I found.
Oh, who's that handsome guy? Jeez,
That's one of his IMDb's.
that's my own name. Yeah.
And Script has actually worked in props as well. Go ahead, Script. You're going to say
Oh, I
something.
was just wondering, Gary, what's your discount on L200 foam?
Oh, what? Huh? Who?
Do you work with L200 sculpting foam?
Oh,
Or any of that stuff? And if so, what discount percentage do you get? Because the stuff that I got was like maybe 15% on any like 1,000 bulk holder.
oh, that's good. Gosh, I
Yeah.
haven't gotten a discount. Well, I get a construction discount, but I don't get a discount on any of that stuff anymore. I know usually the studio would order that stuff. I didn't deal with that, but my own stuff, I don't get a discount. That's great that you do.
No, that's what I did back when I was working on Suicide Squad in 2015. Like,
Oh, okay.
we place orders, and they're like, yeah, this is what you get. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I was wondering, since you worked in the art departments, if you ever did any stuff like that, what with some of the bigger productions, but if they got any discounts, like Disney and Buena Vista usually get some pretty good ones.
Oh, I'm sure they get massive discounts from, I guess all that stuff probably comes from Pomona, right? Silpack or something. Yeah. So I'm sure they get massive discounts that, you know, they don't need and we do. But,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how often do you get confused with other actors? Because you do have that way of you, because we've brought that up before.
Right.
You know,
it actually came up on a live stream. Someone asked
Yeah.
about you being in some movie or not, and you're like,
Yeah.
no, but that was so and so.
Yeah.
Somebody, you know, a lot of people used to mistake me for some huge movie star, and I don't know why, but they could never tell me which one I was. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I'm the greatest movie star you never saw. You know?
Well, you remind me a lot of what's his face from Firefly.
Nathan
Fillion.
Nathan Fillion. Yeah.
Yeah, I never did double for him. Wow, I must be like 19 years
Holy
old
cow,
now. Look at that.
baby Gary.
I know. Yeah. I might be able to pull that off again. Maybe a little P90X and, you know, lay off the beer for a while. But we'll see. Lots of makeup, lots of youth.
We got a couple super chats here. Zontar sent in $2 Canadian and says, just got my class 1 semi-driver's license. Awesome,
right.
Zontar. Congratulations.
Very good.
It seems like maybe a week too late, but hey. You know. Mr. Grant Gregory has a question for Gary. Did you ever get Project 12 off the ground? If so, is it available?
Project 12 is not available. It is finished. It won the Roswell Science Fiction Film Festival back in 2012, and I have been told that I am not going to release it. And I've been what's the word? Not threatened. Let's just say gag ordered. So yes, it is finished. It's done, and no, you will not see it.
Yeah, you were talking about this the other night, I think it was, or a week ago or so. It's a very interesting story, indeed. But yeah, too bad we won't get to see that, or at least in an official manner.
Maybe I'll sneak out a copy. Maybe
The internet
I don't know.
finds a way.
That's right.
But thank you for that, Grant Gregory. We'll be joined by him on Tuesday. Let me see here. Let's go first off with this Charlie Cox news. Charlie Cox confirmed that he will be returning as Daredevil, to nobody's real surprise, but pretty much we already knew this was going to happen. But I think most people are happy to hear it. What about you guys? Gary, were you a big fan of Daredevil, of Charlie Cox's Daredevil?
I didn't see the show. No. Is he popular? Does everybody like him?
Yeah, for the most part. Most people like him.
Yeah.
The show had a huge bump after he was in the recent Spider-Man film, of course, and now we know that the Netflix show will be making its way to Disney in some form. and he will be continuing to play the character for the foreseeable future. Mikey, how
And
about
dare
you?
we say, will he be playing it in the manner to which we have become accustomed?
I hope so. I hope so. That's a good question. What do you think, Script?
I think there'll be some subtle differences to how they interpret this Matt Murdock, but I'd be surprised if it strays too far from what we got in the next Netflix show. I thought it was a pretty decent representation, interesting pace show. I also kind of like how in that series, Daredevil's kind of doing his own thing, and even though he's not really focused on his villain, the villain is kind of going on a self-destructive path because of some of the ancillary effects that are happening because of Daredevil. So I thought that was pretty cleverly done. And yeah, I thought it was a decent show. So I can't wait to see how Disney's going to screw this up.
I hope not. Well, because here's this weird thing, Script, because at first we were told, and this was pretty much reported, so it's not like it was a rumor or anything like that, that they were going to be having a lot of these characters come back, but they weren't going to be the same versions. They were basically going to be, for lack of a better term, 25% different. But then all of a sudden last week, after the week before, one of the two, like within the last 2 weeks here, we got word, I think it was last week, that basically these shows were going to be leaving Netflix and going to Disney, which is like a surprise to everybody. Because now that basically means maybe they are not going to change these characters very much at all. And somebody who might know a thing or two about this is a good buddy of mine with beautiful hair. And I don't know if Gary's ever met him, but Culture Casino, how are you doing?
Hey, I've met Gary before. I think
thought so. I wasn't
Culture,
100% sure.
Yeah, more than once. But as far as my knowledge of the situation is, they are going to try to preserve as much as they can of the Daredevil character. There's a lot of other moving parts going on here, and one of the reasons that they're trying to onboard these shows is because they've not had the kind of reception to what they've put out there that they were anticipating. This is happening with all the streaming services. They are absolutely desperate for content. So, but hopefully that added something to the conversation. I was busy getting ready for today.
No, I think you're right, Culture. I think that after Spider-Man came out and they saw that big jump of Daredevil back into the top 10 of Netflix streaming shows, they're like, we can't mess this up. And then, if they were talking with Bernthal and he really was as adamant as he was about, not changing anything in the character, they might have seen that as, a way of signing him on and getting everything back to normal and just dealing with it. Because I know Feige wasn't a huge fan of what they did over there. He was a fan of a few things, but not everything. But I think Script's also right. Like, there's nothing tying Feige to anything they did before either. So if he wants to do something different.
Yeah, and I don't think Stephen S. DeKnight's attached to it to come back, is he? So
no, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I just, like I said, I wasn't, I wasn't sold on, anything Marvel, that was produced, under the Disney banner. I was one of the fans of pretty much all of the series that came out of Netflix. So I'm one of the few that really appreciated almost all of them. So
you're the one that liked Iron Fist, huh?
You're the only one.
Yeah. No, Culture. Wait a minute. Culture Casino is a man of exquisite taste. There's no way he liked Iron Fist. Culture.
I liked about 2 episodes out of the total run. How's that?
That's funny because that's about how many episodes I watched.
Okay, what do you think about Jessica Jones?
It was fine.
I'm sorry, that was a good
show. Kristen Ritter is a very talented actress.
You know what's funny about Jessica Jones? At the time, my girlfriend was watching that, and I didn't realize it was a Marvel show until can't remember if it was like an episode or 2 in, or I just happened to realize, oh shit, this is a Marvel show.
Yeah, it really didn't seem like it, right? There were like 1 or 2 episodes that you could get through without even having that impression, And
yeah, because she was just watching it in the background, and I was kind of paying attention. I'm like, oh, this ain't that bad of a show for a chick show. I'm like, oh, she's got I'm like, I said something to her, yeah, because she did something that was like super powered, and then she's like, oh, she's got superpowers. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I didn't know it was anything to do with Marvel. And then there was like some, I can't remember if Rosario Dawson showed up or somebody showed up or somebody said something in one of the episodes that referred back to something else, and then it clicked for me. But anyway, it wasn't a horrible show. I thought it was pretty good. I loved Luke Cage.
Yeah, Luke Cage was great, but see, I'm a big Hell's Kitchen fan. I mean, you're talking about, you know, the down to earth, like Hell's Kitchen, not quite superheroes, right? I mean, Luke Cage was probably the most, you know, until you get to obviously Iron Fist, but for the most part, I mean, you know, Barenthal's Punisher, Daredevil, you know, these are the down to earth people, you know, just trying to make their circumstance livable. And for Matt Murdock, it's, you know, making his little corner of the world a little bit better. And for Barenthal, he's still trying to come to grips with, you know, his tremendous loss and actually tremendous losses that he suffered. So it's you know, I like I said, I mean, those are some of my favorite shows, and I'm glad that they're going to be bringing them back. And if anything, I am excited for Moon Knight, but I'm sure that will be short lived. So
what's funny is, at least we know for now, not yet in the US, it hasn't been announced, but outside of the US, there's a few places where Disney Plus is getting all those Netflix shows the week before Moon Knight drops. So keep that in mind, kids. I have a feeling they're going to echo that over here as well. And yes, pun intended. But with that, we're going to move on from that because that was pretty much already everybody kind of knew news, and Gary hadn't seen the show. So we're going to just move past that. But one thing that I thought was a really good article that come up today reminded me of Script Doctor's tweet from a couple weeks back, and that it's talking about the runtime of movies. Variety put out this article from Rebecca Rubin about why are movies so long. So we're going to get into that in just a moment, but I got a couple super chats here. We got a double from Tim Scorpion. He accidentally sent it twice. Sorry about that. I don't know if you can contact YouTube or Google and see if you can get one of those refunded, which I would not have a problem with if you did. But I personally can't do anything on my end. Sorry. But Tim Scorpion said, if they breach the sarcophagus, I swear to God. Well, you can have that. But yeah, thank you for the two duplicates there, buddy. And like I said, go ahead and contact Google if you can. They might be able to help you out with that. And then Joker Voice says, great pre-51st present for me. Keep talking. Well, I'm glad to hear you're happy about Daredevil. And happy pre-birthday. So glad to have you here. And I see some regular faces and some new people joining us. Thank you for being here, guys. Hit that like button. Share out the stream to let everybody know we're live. I doubt YouTube alerted anybody because I didn't get the stream up very early. That's my fault. So I'm going to go through this real quick. Did a chill go down your spine when you noticed Robert Pattinson's The Batman was just shy of 3 hours long? No, but the thought of having to piss about halfway through did. Maybe you feel, along with other comic book enthusiasts, there's no such thing as too much Bruce Wayne. 3 hours, 5 hours, injected directly into our eyeballs. I don't know about this Bruce Wayne, but anyway. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt for the article. Or after 2 hours of pandemic isolation, perhaps you've gotten used to pausing the TV every 30 seconds to check your phone, grab a snack, use the restroom, or doom scroll on Twitter. Doom scroll? That's a new one. The thought of spending 180 uninterrupted minutes staring at a silver screen is so daunting you've considered skipping the Batman altogether. Movie makers take all those reactions into consideration when they deliver their final cut. A-list actors in leading roles, a big name director, and a compelling pitch are key in selling a film, of course, but a movie's runtime is one of the less flashy yet deliberately thought out elements. Unlike precisely timed network television shows, movies have flexibility, but there are good reasons why studios and directors want to avoid bloat, though in some instances it's unavoidable. Now, before we get too deeper into this, I really want to, that's a good point that this our author does bring up here. It's something that we didn't even bring up in your conversation script. And that was that television does have a rigid time schedule, at least commercial television.
Network and cable television does, yeah.
Yeah. So why is it people are so upset about you positing the truth about what a standard runtime should be? And note, a standard, not the rule, a standard. And yet nobody bats an eye when a television show is 22 minutes long.
And as a bit of a background script before you get started, could you give the crowd, the audience, like a 30 second or minute like overview of what happened on Twitter? You know, like.
Well, this is like a few months back, but yeah, Chris Gore made some sort of comment about things being too long, and then I pretty much just laid out like by a runtime by each genre, and saying that a director with experience can earn to go over that runtime, and people got upset by that. A lot of people liked it. I mean, it got more likes than it did retweets or quote tweets. But yeah, people just didn't click in on what I was saying in some points, and I was happy to educate them on that, and I did so quite politely, actually.
Yeah, and that's when I got to look up two deleted scenes. Doom Scroll, that's a new one. But yeah, so Gary, anything to add to this, or Mike, before we move down on the rest of the article?
Yeah, you know, I always felt that even from, especially from a studio standpoint, why would you want a movie to be 3+ hours? You know, if you break it down just in as far as numbers, you get more screenings per day. If you can show that movie more times, therefore there's more ticket sales in one day. That's the only way to get more ticket sales, because if the movie's 3 hours, you can only play it a few times.
Right, and of course, as I said before, this is a standard, not in movies. There's
Right.
no real standard at all. I mean, there's kind of like this unsaid industry standard that Script basically broke down in his tweet. Was
Well,
what
there's a
he, yeah,
minimum, which is I think is like
yeah.
74 pages to 74
Well, yeah,
minutes qualifies as
Yeah.
a feature.
yeah. I think it
I
has to be over 60 minutes to qualify as a feature film. Sorry, Gary.
Yeah, I really like movies that are about an hour and a half. I don't like, you know, investing 3 hours into a movie. I mean, I'm a working man, you know what I mean? I don't certainly don't mind. I mean, I wouldn't say, well, I'm definitely not going to watch this movie because it's 3.5 hours. You know, some movies are worth it, but still, I think there's absolutely a guideline by which you should follow, you know, unless you've got some epic, massive, incredible tale to tell, and it can only be done in 3 hours, then yeah, that's fine. But absolutely, I'm
Yeah.
all for guidelines.
No,
Well,
I agree 100%. Go ahead, Culture.
no, it's just this is one of those fights that the industry isn't really having. This is people excusing, you know, bad editing, bad storytelling, you know, which is essentially how you end up with an overbloated movie. I guarantee you, when you watch the Batman, you're going to be saying, "Wow, that could have ended up on the cutting room floor," or you know, if this was edited better, it would be more tightly is probably the better way.
Culture. I have said that more times in the last 10 years than I ever have in my life.
Yeah, and it's runaway garbage gets shoved in your film, and it's again it comes down to the loss of creativity, and just people not being able to to follow best practices. That's the professional filmmaking is really important. The guy above me spent the better part of a day going back and forth on Twitter in a very polite way because he is Canadian, telling everybody these are good practices to have because it protects your story, it protects your film, and it protects the studio. And as Gary mentioned, I mean, and this is an argument that's been happening quite a bit lately. It gets more screenings. You need those. I mean, from a business sense, it makes no sense otherwise. It's 100% right. So Gary was right on point.
Well, think of it this way. Do you want to have a 90-minute movie where all 90 minutes are awesome contents, acting, sets, and everything? Or do you want to have a 2.5-hour to 3-hour movie where only 90 minutes of that is awesome and the rest is just kind of filler that's there because a director or some financial influencer with the project felt that those things were necessary, but they don't resonate with anyone else?
No, and of course the go-to we always go to is Back to the Future. It's a tight story. It's 2 hours, but basically you got 3 acts that are run about 40 minutes each, roughly, and it works just perfectly. And that's why I think 90 minutes is a great running time, because 30 minutes is a great amount of time to get an act in. And that's where I think in 90-minute films, that 3-act structure works really well. But you were going to say something, Mike. I'm sorry.
I have 2 questions. One, it's more than a comment. I think I have 2 questions. One question is, when this has come up before, when I've had this discussion in other places, other streams, people retort back with things like, I don't know, Gone with the Wind or 10 Commandments.
There's a few in the chat already, yeah, and we'll get on those. But yeah,
I'm not looking. Oh yeah, and I apologize to everyone in the chat. I'm not. If you're shouting me out, I'm sorry. I'm not talking right now, responding. I'm just sort of engrossed in the convo. But so that's one thing. I'd like to get script your reaction to that, and then my second thing is that these ones that are really long that I've attended, I have to take a break. Okay, maybe I'm abnormal that way, and maybe maybe it's unusual. But I mean, what about how do people feel about intermissions? So those are my 2 questions I want to.
Well, they had intermissions initially for some of those epics.
Oh, really?
I most vividly remember them for like Ben-Hur and Lawrence of Arabia.
Well, what changed was the multiplex. See, you used to be able to do that. In fact, Gone with the Wind was shown over 2 nights in some places. Like you had to come back the next night to see the other half. That was not abnormal back then, but they only had one theater usually back then. It wasn't like they had 7 movies playing and you're trying to get that, each of those movies to get 5 showtimes in a day. Like that's where things really kind of changed quite a bit. But like in the last few years, we've seen this over bloatation, I would say. I know that's not probably a word, but and I think a lot
it's
of
an inflation. I would
or
call
inflation.
it.
Thank you. That's what I would call it. Yeah. And it has a lot to do with these superhero films, right? Like
Well, I
we
first
started.
noticed it with comedies thanks to Judd Apatow and his
Oh
ability to
yes.
not do
Well,
anything.
not just you're right. Actually, no, I take that back. You're right. Script. It started with comedies on the Judd Apatow side and Pixar on the kid movie side, and that goes along with what Goddess of Whim kind of said here. So I'm going to bring that up now. Thank you for this super chat, Goddess of Whim, and thank you for being a member, of course. My standard has been an hour to 40 minutes is a kid family movie. 2 hours is an adult drama. 2.5 hours is an action movie, but that's just me. That's kind of an average. But here's the thing: before Pixar, most kids movies were around 75 minutes. They kept them well under 90 minutes. I remember sitting with my, at the time, 5-year-old and like 4-year-old nephew watching Cars. And I'm like, there is no reason this movie should be more than 90 minutes. Because they were getting antsy in the last half of the movie when most of the action was happening. Like they were just getting bored. They're like, we've been sitting here too long. There's no reason for that. And you're right, Script. Like 40-Year-Old Virgin and all those Apatow films that were like
Knocked Up and
2.5 hours long and shit like that. And where I've argued Funny People is actually like 2 movies in one.
it is.
It's like a first movie and a bad sequel.
I have a poll idea for tonight in the private chat.
Let's get that poll up. If there is a 3 to 4 hour long movie in favor of intermission, yes or no? Okay, let's do that. I don't think the studios would go with intermission because that goes against what they want to
Well,
do.
the thing is that they want good rotation with their potential audience base. As Gary was saying a little bit earlier, if you can get more screenings and more shows within the day, that usually yields more money.
Exactly.
And while I'm not going to be surprised, I mean, again, this the Batman's probably going to be in what 4,300 theaters, which is kind of like par for the course for these types of films. So you're looking at possibly an average of like 90 million minimum take for the weekend. But that's maxing it out. As soon as those theaters decline with other new releases, you're going to see maybe more than a 55% decline on the subsequent weeks when the theaters are going to change those screens to other films. And because you can't get as many showings, that decline is going to be a real dramatic one, regardless of the quality of the film. It's just because you have a 3-hour film, you might be able to get 5 showings in a theater, in a multi-screen theater that each day, I think, depending on how many other screens are booked by other films.
And the Batman's going to benefit from the fact that there isn't as many films opening right now as normal as well. So it's going to get more theaters too. So, but you're right, Script, you're 100% right.
Yeah, I mean, I like 2.5 hours. That's pushing it. Like True Lies is 2.5 hours, and that is almost an expertly paced film. And it was not James Cameron's first, also. So like he had to figure out how to do that.
You also have to take into consideration all the previews and commercials too.
Yeah. So yeah, do you really want to spend three hours in a movie theater? I mean, unless it's Lord of the Rings, and
well, that's an exception to the rule, right? Like that's what we're talking about.
There's going to be only a handful of exceptions, and I'm sorry, as much as there is a fan base behind guys like Matt Reeves and the brand of Batman, I really don't think that. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I really don't think 3 hours is appropriate for a Batman film.
I just see how so many great stories have been told about Batman. I just can't see how you can't do it in an hour and a half. I mean, what are you going to do?
The Phantasm, I think, was only an hour, 22 minutes.
I was going to say it's under 90 minutes.
No, it's longer than 90 minutes.
Is it?
Yeah, it was a proper feature film.
Well, I know that part, but I mean, I don't know if it was actually 90 minutes or not. I'd have to look. You might be right. It might be like 97. Let's keep going here because I have a feeling they're going to make a lot of the same points we just did. Okay. Movie's length has the potential to impact the budget, profits, and word of mouth. With millions of dollars on the line, those precious minutes are never arbitrary. In an age when there's no shortage of entertainment options, directors, producers, or executives don't need anyone to exit a movie and think, it was good, but it was way too long. It may not be scientifically proven, but sometimes it feels like movies are indeed getting longer. Many of these year's biggest releases: No Time to Die, 2 hours and 43 minutes, Spider-Man No Way Home, 2 hours and 28 minutes, Dune, 2 hours and 35 minutes, Eternals, 2 hours and 37 minutes, and The Last Duel, 2 hours and 32 minutes, may as well run forever and a day. I don't know if The Duel was a blockbuster. Oh, biggest releases. Never mind. I thought I was misremembering. Still, it's a trend, not necessarily new. Plenty of older popular movies. 1939's Gone with the Wind was 3 hours and 58 minutes. 62's Lawrence of Arabia was 3 hours and 47. And 1959's Ben-Hur's 3 hours and 32 minutes. Managed to become commercial smashes despite butt-numbing runtimes. Now, these are bad examples to bring up here because these are all movies like we just brought up.
Epics.
Well, not just that, where they're from an era when there wasn't a multiplex.
Yeah.
When this was the only movie you're showing, right? Anyway, they managed to become commercial smashes despite butt-numbing runtimes. Ditto recent hits like Spider-Man and No Time to Die. Those examples proves there is not always a negative correlation between the length of a movie and its success. Most of the highest-grossing films in history fall between 2 and 3 hours, and only one Oscar Best Picture winner, Annie Hall, comes in at just 1 hour and 30 minutes. I don't think that's that's kind of like some arbitrary shit, but anyway.
Yeah.
Streaming services don't face the same financial pressure as traditional studios, so they don't require rigid guidelines since Netflix allows freedom for Martin Scorsese's The Irishman to be 3.5 hours long, or Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead to be 2 hours and 28 minutes, or Spike Lee's Da 5 Bloods to be 2 hours and 34 minutes. It's harder for the old guard to impose strict limits on filmmakers. Whether it's for theater streamers, there's still a healthy mix of art and empiricism, if I'm saying that right, that goes into long-standing debate over an individual movie's runtime. But is this a new hot topic, or has the Battle of the Bulge been as long as movie history? Let's, as Julie Andrews sing in Sound of Music, 2 hours and 54 minutes, start at the very beginning. Oh Lord, I didn't know this was going to be this long, but hey. I was just opening it for a great discussion. In the early days of cinema, the duration of a movie directly correlated to the amount of film that was available. That's the reason the first decade of the 20th century, most flicks would range from 10 to 15 minutes. By the 1920s, technology had advanced enough to accommodate feature-length films. And by the 1950s, running times for epics like Gone with the Wind or Ten Commandments became a selling point, one that the studios used to great effect to compete with television. Audiences could watch any old show at home, but only cinemas offered the kind of immersive storytelling worth leaving the couch and parting the hard-earned cash. The development of digital cinema in the late 90s also allowed running times to vary. It freed filmmakers from physical limitations of cumbersome film reels, and computerized versions of movies meant 3-hour features didn't cost as much to ship and store. Most long films could be promoted as a special and prestigious, says Dana Poland, a cinema studies professor at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. There was an assumption that length equaled quality. You know, it's funny because when I worked in the video store, there were so many people who would buy movies depending on how long whatever it was they were buying was.
I think they're conflating things from one aspect of society with another.
Yeah, they're conflating a lot of shit in this article, that's for sure.
Because I totally understand the concept of size matters, but it doesn't always apply to length of film.
I think they should have listened to us. Like, a lot of the stuff we were just discussing makes better points than what they're doing here. But anyway, where was I here? But as Spider-Man might have put it, had he run a film studio, with greater run times comes greater responsibility. The only clearer a movie gets, the more that anyone with money on the line stands to worry. At the box office, longer movies mean fewer show times per day. Fewer show times reduce ticket sales. That makes it harder to break even and eventually turn a profit. At the same time, the audience have started to favor special effects driven movies, which usually come with bigger price tags and require higher returns to justify those increased costs. Poland says he recently noticed a mega-budgeted superhero and adventure tentpoles, which have come to all but sustain the exhibition industry, often incorporate long, CGI-heavy action sequences. Some sequences may even feel gratuitous. It's almost to say, we've spent the money, let's flaunt it, he knows. Well, that's been the movie studios since way back when. So again, more conflation there. For most theatrical films, length contributes to the scheduling game. Theater budget roughly 3 hours per screening to accommodate time for trailers beforehand and janitors to clean up after patrons. For a 3-hour movie like The Avengers Endgame or upcoming The Batman, the exhibitors need to account for an additional hour, which cuts the least one daily showtime with Endgame. With Endgame, multiplexes stayed open for 72 hours straight to meet high sky demand, but not every blockbuster hopefully gets that red carpet treatment. The runtime can also affect the downstream revenues like television licensing. For a while, 91 minutes is an ideal length. It fit nicely into a 2-hour block on a cable with commercials. There are only concerns for finalized film. When directors initially sign on to major studio, they have a contractual obligation to deliver at 2 hours. It's almost unspoken that nobody pays attention to that rule, but it protects studios should a filmmaker deliver a movie with a truly egregious length. You sign it and then you ignore it, says John Turteltaub, the director of Nicolas Cage's action-adventure series National Treasure. And Jason Statham-led shark epic The Meg, which is Meg 2 has been getting some movement, by the way. Everyone from top to bottom wants the best film. Studios don't want to pull a contract card because it could be seen as interfering with the creative process, but they prefer shorter films. Studios don't enforce it, and producers don't either, because they'll eventually get it to the right length, says Jonathan Glickman, a producer and former MGM Motion Picture Group president. A shorter movie is less expensive to put together and therefore less of a financial risk. Such considerations start with the earliest physical part of a movie idea, the screenplay. A longer script requires more time to film. In turn, additional shooting dates tack on millions of dollars. With a visual effects-driven film, an extra 30 to 60 more minutes of screen time can increase a budget as much as 25%. One source at a major studio estimates the more footage on tape, the more time is needed in post-production stages, which adds some $50,000 to $100,000 per week, the insider adds. That takes into account aspects like audio mixing and sound editing. It also requires more days to have actors on set. During the pandemic, longer filming schedules mean greater risks of having an outbreak. Delay in production, overall trimming, and any excess before cameras begin rolling can be a difference of tens of millions of dollars. Okay, we're there. He's just getting into, okay, this just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. Okay. Do you guys really want me to finish all this, or we kind of get the gist of this?
I think we get the gist of it.
Yeah, we get the point.
I think so. All right. So discussion time.
I got 2 points to throw out.
Go ahead, Mike.
One is that I know that if a movie's long, it's going to affect who I go to that movie with and whether I go to that movie. And that certainly, meaning like if it's a really long movie and it's not, I don't know, like say it's someone I've just started dating, I'm not going to take her to a fucking 3 or 4 hour movie. That's just not going to happen. Same thing too with if you have young kids and the ratings right. You're not going to, I mean, to me, I wonder why, and maybe this is a question for Gary specifically or script. Like, don't you guys think, you industry guys, that when they drag this out, what stops them from making the hard creative decisions they need to make that would otherwise stop it from running this long?
Well, I would say that I think that they used to do that, and for some reason they've just stopped doing it. And I think that, when we started getting movies on DVD and Blu-ray way back in the day, on the turn of the millennium, we had all these all this unreleased footage, and there was an hour of extra footage that was never used in the movie, and the director finally got his vision. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that it was great. That just means that it was a lot longer. There's a reason that stuff was omitted. Now, maybe they're at the point where they're saying, look, we can't mess with these directors' visions. These guys are saying it needs to be 3 hours long. Well, that means that's a quality movie. We need to stick with that. Maybe they're just making bad choices based on that. Other than that, Mike, I can't imagine why. I mean, really, there's a perfect threshold for amount of runtime and pacing of story versus the amount of money that you're going to make. And those, right. These studios have enough technology and enough numbers to know right where that threshold is. And if they're not using it, then they're losing money on their own. It's their decision.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I also think that plays into the fact that a lot of the executives that are able to make the decisions of this type are a lot younger than they used to be. They're in their late 20s, early 30s. They grew up finding these special features on DVD and being shocked and maybe even disappointed that the movie that they liked in theaters was a lot longer and from their perspective better with the extended stuff on the DVD or Blu-ray. And I think they're probably in the position of power where it's like, you know what, why do I want to rob the kid that I was like of that extra content in the theater when it's only ever going to be available on DVD? I think that's one part of the perspective. The other part too, and Tom, if you scroll all the way down and read the last paragraph of this article, it makes a very great argument with regards to runtimes that they can read out. I think
Sure, there was actually only like 3 more.
No, just go to the last.
There was
one.
only a few more paragraphs left, actually, but yeah, I can do that. I was gonna say I could just finish it, but where do you want me to start? This one or the next one?
The second to last one.
So then why, after all this careful consideration at every step of the filmmaking process, does it still feel taxing to watch some movies? It's not for lack of trying. Many executives blame it on a rush to meet a release date. There's less time to make surgical edits that would prevent moviegoers from dozing off. In certain instances, directors can make the financial decision to preserve scenes that others may view as indulgent. And once editing is already significantly underway, it's easier and less expensive, or for better or for worse, to keep it all on screen. At the end of the day, making movies isn't an exact science. There's no formula that determines how long it will take to tell a compelling story, or to know with any certainty the exact moment that an audience member will start to get bored. But there are a few important rules of thumb. No movie is good because it's long, and no movie is good because it's short, Turtletaub said. But I'd rather see a short, shitty movie than a long one. Yeah. That's so true.
Eternals.
And that should be the very the axiom of things. Is like, listen, no one really goes out there intending to make a bad movie, but sometimes when you get to the closing final legs of post-production, you kind of realize what level of quality film you have. And if you actually care about the audience watching it, you kind of want to like rip the Band-Aid off if you think it's bad and just say, okay, this is kind of bad. We know what's really good. Let's really highlight the stuff that's good in there. So at least there's a chance the audience will be rewarded for their time. And we don't embarrass ourselves too much, as opposed to the opposite, where it's like, okay, we kind of know it's bad, but let's just throw everything out there and see what sticks and, get their money and run type of attitude, which is more of a rare thing. You'll see that in some independent markets, but not so much on the studio side. But it seems like we're getting a little bit of bleed over there. And Mike, you're absolutely right. Eternals would be a prime example of that.
Eternals, yeah. I think Turtletaub directed Cool Runnings as well, if I'm not mistaken. Snowdub Live says Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan deserved extra. Well, and those are exceptions, Snow. And that's the thing, is you have your Lawrence of Arabia's, your Saving Private Ryan's, your Schindler's List, which require a lot more time to tell stories. But I'm with, like Six said earlier in the chat, I'm hard-pressed 9 times out of 10 to really think of extended cuts that are better than the theatrical versions, outside of the rare exceptions being like the Lord of the Rings. And I'm talking about Lord of the Rings, not the Hobbit movies. The Hobbit movies could stay short. Other than that, like maybe Aliens, Terminator 2, not too many.
Yeah, here's the biggest problem. You really can tell a complete story very easily, a good one, inside of 2 hours. There's never, like I said, I mean, there's a reason to keep these things short. Number one, people have stuff to do. I think Gary said that right at the beginning. I'm a working man. I got stuff to do. I don't want to get trapped in a film, as good as it may be, for 3.5 hours. And here's the bad thing, right? Because this article came out by itself, but in another trade here recently, it could have been today or in the last few days, because I read everything I can. I just don't remember what day it was. They're now saying that on the streaming side of things, since there's no real reason for them to, and I think they said something similar in this article, there's no real reason for them to monitor what they give us, in a television format either. Right. And and yet, you see terribly shortened episodes of things like, well, Mandalorian being a primary example. When there's no compelling reason to keep that at 40 some minutes, you could run it a full hour. There is no commercial pressures there. Of course, they could be targeting the future where it's going to be ad supported. Maybe Disney was that that forward thinking to actually plan for that. And if they were, God bless them. But I just, you're going to start seeing some of those shows get formatted in a way that will allow for commercials, because you're going to see a heavy lean towards ad-supported streaming, because all of these streaming services have come to the realization that not all of us can afford 7 or 8 streaming services. You just can't. You're going to have 2, 3, maybe 4.
Funny you said that.
Oh, really?
Culture, because in the same exact variety, this is the front page anyway. They have an article about how streaming has supersized TV, but how long is too long?
Okay, so yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, when was this? This
is today. These are both today. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I was gonna say, because I shot the one this morning to script early, and because I came upon it and I'm like, this is genius, right? Except that they come at it from the wrong side. I did not see this one, but I've seen this a version of this story, multiple times now. It is infuriating to me that they are supersizing TV episodes. And again, you have to be careful, because you're going to have these streaming services are going to need to format as a commercial product, but at the same time, you don't have the same pressures for premium television. That was why everybody loved HBO premium stuff like Game of Thrones and all of the other things. Yeah, because you could give every bit of that hour to the content. So anyway, I
actually prefer the hour drama format, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the old days, in the early days of television, the hour-long drama was between 51 and 55 minutes.
Exactly, yeah.
And then the half hour is like 25 minutes or so. The commercials were sparse and quick. And then as the 80s and 90s came around, that dwindled down to like 47, 44, then 42. Yeah. And I've seen some episodes hour-longs that are 38 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's shocking.
This episode of I Dream of Jeannie, brought to you by Geritol for your good health. Number 1, blah, 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 doctors, yada, yada, yada. And
now androsite, yeah.
They would actually make the ads part of the show. Like, I love the fact that they got the Winston cigarette ads on the old Flintstone episodes on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Hey, Bonnie, Winston cigarettes taste great. Yeah, they ain't got much tar either, do they, Fred? No, they're tar-free.
Yeah.
There's a ton of tar over there in the pit.
There's one more thing to lend to
Pebbles, kids.
There's one more thing to lend to the 3.5 hour movie, and they were mentioned in the previous super chat, and that's Tom Hanks was spearheading that movie. Now there used to be, we don't have this anymore, but there used to be these actors where people would go and see the movie. It didn't matter what it was, as long as that actor was in it. Like, oh, Sean Connery's in this, I'm going to go see a Sean Connery movie. I'm going to go see a Tom Hanks movie. And those, you might be able to get people to stick around for 3.5 hours for that. So there's something to be said about a major star power. And I mean, we don't have that at all anymore. I mean, what actor do we have now?
Really? We don't?
We don't actually. No, we bring that up all the time.
I think Sony would argue that they do.
Well, Sony thinks Tom Holland, but no, actually, you're right, Gary. And we bring this point up quite often that we don't have the movie stars like we used to.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these franchises, they're reinvigorating and rebooting, whatever. 9 times out of 10, they came from the 70s and 80s. And that was these franchises that were started by the people you're talking about, people that were the stars drove the picture, not the picture drove the stars, right? Now it's the other way around. And these comic book movies, I think, are a big part of it, because it doesn't really matter who's behind the mask in the end.
No. It doesn't. Even though they are constantly insisting on keeping the masks off, we don't care anymore. I mean, the last few movie stars have been canceled or attempted to be canceled. You have, of course, Johnny Depp, who had a career that spanned quite a ways. He was a huge star. He drove the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, right? You had Robert Downey Jr., who was Iron Man. I'm sorry, when he said I am Iron Man, no kidding.
He's never been a leading star, though. Really?
No. Well, I mean, Chaplin, he was excellent.
That was about his only movie that he's ever had, like the headlining, I'm the star, big movie, everything came into place. Otherwise, a lot of his other films never went anywhere. Same thing with Keanu Reeves. Every other movie he makes flops. Every few years he has a movie that'll remind people that, oh yeah, Keanu Reeves existed. And I say the same thing about The Rock. Everybody insists that he's this big movie star. And I'm like, is he? Is he
No.
really? Because you look at his movies, the only movie that he has that is a big hit for himself was that Skyscraper movie or San Andreas. I can't remember which one. But outside of that,
it was awful.
Yeah, but outside of that, all his biggest films are movies that he's in an ensemble cast.
Yeah. Yeah. And it, like I said, I mean, Gary, you're 100% right. This is a conversation we have all the time. Who is a movie star nowadays? There's none. There aren't any.
Will Smith was the last one.
Yeah.
Mayor is right.
Yeah, they're gone.
Tom Cruise is about the closest you could argue, and even he hasn't had any short. Like he's had a few flops in the last few years too.
Mm-hmm.
Bradley Cooper came and went pretty quick.
He did, didn't he? Wow.
Jai
Well, I saw
Courtney.
that coming because I thought he's too serious of an actor to actually be affable and approachable by an audience.
Chris Pratt is
He
probably the
is.
closest to a new star you could argue.
And he's been in the industry for 25 years.
Yeah, same thing with Ryan Reynolds. Same difference. He's also been around for 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Tweaky Kid here says, "Thank you, Midnight's Edge panel, for breaking from doom scrolling." Yeah. We need a break from doom scrolling. Yes, bring back the intermission and let's all go to the lobby. I like
my local theater that I go on Tuesday night that Chad voted that I go see Uncharted. So I'm taking Mexican Iron Mom to the movies on Saturday. We're gonna go see Uncharted.
Cool.
And every single time I've gone to this movie theater, which at this point I've gone at least 20 times, 30 times maybe, they play that. It is so cool.
That's awesome.
It is so cool.
I think it's public domain now. I use it for my intro for Script and I's A-rated B movies and B-rated A movies and never get claimed. So then we got Snail Messiah, who sends in 20 Danish krona and says, "It's my birthday. You congratulate me. 45 years. Happy birthday, Snail Messiah.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you for
45.
celebrating it with us." Yeah.
Woot woot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Then we got Hillis Mallory in the house who says there might be a difference between a movie and television series. If you take the time to build a story, a TV series might be a better option.
Sure.
Well, great example. They were going to make Narcos as a movie. Then they realized they have a lot more shit here than they could do, and now is a very popular series for Netflix. So
yeah,
TV affords an audience the benefit of exploring a character in far more depth than a film. But with a film, you gotta make it punchy, and it has to resonate. With television, you can take that extra time if you have to,
and follow multiple characters and give them decent screen time. Because in a movie, you're only afforded so much, right? That's where Peter Jackson did. God, he did amazing in introducing all those characters in what time he did have. Because we sit here and look at 9 hours. Nah, well, look at it this way: if that's a TV show, that's what 10 episodes of a show.
Yeah.
Oh, easily. You could and that's when you start to add the extended editions and all the other stuff. He literally he could have gotten 20 some episodes out of each book.
Oh,
if
easily.
he really wanted to. Yeah.
So stuff like that really that's where I argued that I would have rather had seen them do a mini series instead of a remake.
Like the original It.
Just do it as a mini series. It makes more sense and do it more fleshed out. It's pretty sad that the TV miniseries is technically the more superior version, in my opinion.
Well, Tim Curry has that effect on people.
Well, it's not just that; it's just the way the story is structured.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It makes more sense to bounce back and forth because that helps make the second half a little bit more interesting. And because once you get to the adult part, that's what Tommy Lee Wallace said, is it's fucking boring. It's the same shit all over again. So you got to kind of mix it in between the two and parallel it. Otherwise, it's boring. And that's my problem I had with the remake is you have all the kids stuff crammed into one and all the adult stuff crammed into the other. And the second movie suffers for that as far as most people are concerned. But yeah, Hillis Mallory says, we got this one. So, but yeah, you're right, Hillis. That is totally true. And then we got Snowdub in the house. Says, my intermissions are called booty breaks. Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. Thank you for those.
Amazing. And then we got Lord Kamina too, who says, hail panel. I'm going to be streaming Elden Ring in an hour or two on Twitch.
Ooh.
It's my first stream, and I'd like to appreciate the shout out username Lord Kamina 2.
Awesome.
Well, if you're into Elden Ring, check out Lord Kamina's stream in about 2 hours, 1 or 2 hours, and he'll be playing.
Didn't that just come out? It just came out.
I think so.
Yeah.
But now, Gary, you've actually made films before. How do you approach the overall structure of it? And then same thing kind of for script, equal question. Obviously a movie always starts from the script, that's the basis. Now, are you somebody though who goes for the script and realizes I'm not going to need half this stuff and edits as much as he can out beforehand? or do you like to film it and play with it later on?
Well, honestly, I'm kind of a bad example of that because I always wrote all of my own stuff. So I pretty much knew what I wanted to do
Well,
and approached that. I planned it from the very beginning. But I think that a good script is where you find it, and as long as it's hitting all those major points, and if you have if you really want to write for a movie, if you want to write for motion pictures, you have to know the process of making one. You have to know a little bit about how to be a director, how to be an actor, how to produce. You have to know that stuff, because if you don't want your script to get horribly massacred and you be the one that is always complaining about, oh well, they destroyed my script, you got to know how it is they're going to make it, because you could have a great idea and a really shitty script, and the studio could buy it, but then it's not what you wrote. So you really have to, being a writer, you have to know a little bit about everybody's job. That's my opinion.
do you agree with that script coming from the script point of view?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to sort of know what type, like, there's general understandings of how a director is going to shoot something. And if you understand the basic principles of directing, you can effectively communicate what you're trying to get across on the script so that they resonate with it, and then they can actually have some fun with that. And it's also really good to know, get inside the head of actors, because you want to write a role that will get them interested and then have them lobby for your script to get made. And you can't do that if you just bury your head only in screenwriting and you don't explore all the other jobs and requirements to make a film. It's a very collaborative effort overall. So as a screenwriter, usually my approach is, come up with a concept, do an outline to see if it has legs to reach the conclusion that I'm going for, and then I just start writing cause and effect actions and exploring character and whatnot, and till I rewrite until I'm happy enough that I got a draft I'm going to show people. And then from there, that's where you get some of the other input. Like a director might be interested and they say, oh, I really like this idea, we can explore it and develop it there, in which case you go into a rewrite process. And then an actor comes and says, oh, I think this is my approach to this character, and then you go into another one. And you have that flexibility if you do the groundwork beforehand by understanding what the jobs are in the production, and then at the same time planning out what you're trying to do based on your concept, so that if there are changes going to happen, and they will happen, it's always going to happen, you at least still have that foundation that established where you can be a little malleable and flexible in order to get the thing made. And if you don't do that work, then when someone comes up with an idea, it might actually be that one idea that just causes the whole story to fall apart, because it wasn't thought of properly in the first hand. So that is usually why it's a good idea to know what you're doing, to explore stuff before you actually fully commit to a story. So that's why I always recommend outlining, which is really just essentially your first draft at the bare minimum. Like, you can outline it any way you want, but if you get from the beginning, middle, and end, and you did it once, that's your outline. It's your first draft. Then you just go from there, and hopefully you work out the kinks with subsequent drafts and as it goes forward. But that's the general process that I would recommend everyone to get a start with first, if that's your interest. And the other part too is, when you start exploring directors and actors and editors, you actually realize that you might find solutions to problems that you've had as a writer with your stories. Like, you don't understand, why is this not happening, or why am I not getting that particular emotion out of these characters interacting. You might be able to find that by watching actors in an acting class, or going to an acting class or an improvisation class yourself, so that you can actually get into that headspace. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting to a point of diarrhea. I've been up for 15 hours straight.
No, it's all important in the process, and that's I asked the question, and that's the answer. Goddess of Whim says, we don't have movie stars anymore in acting or music because pop culture changes too fast. It's why Weird Al is semi-retired. Do you guys agree with this? I think this is kind of a good point.
Yep.
I think between social media and certain other things, it's a lot harder to establish yourself as an industry standard, I guess, and that's probably why it's so easy to go back to some of these older stars, probably.
I suppose there is a burnout. Like, things burn out faster with social media. Like, the only people I think that kind of have a bit more of a footing
Kind
would
of an
be someone like
overexposure, yeah.
would be like an influencer, because they their entire job is to keep up with the times. With movies and television, you're hot for a moment long enough to at least get one or two things into production, and then by the time those get released, you might not be hot anymore, and it's a crapshoot to whether or not those productions upon release reinvigorate that flame again.
You kind of risk yourself for overexposure way easier in this day and age, I think.
Especially in the 21st century. I mean, how many Will Ferrell movies came out back to back in an 8-year period? It was so much. I mean, I don't blame him because he wanted to get all that money so he could have a nice, cushy living after the fact. But it was basically felt like 3 movies of his a year.
Well, not just that, but there's certain actors and stuff that wouldn't do a lot of promotion or would only do so many talk shows and stuff because they didn't want to overexpose themselves.
There is that. There's a sense of false scarcity is usually pretty good. If you know that the actor is really good and popular and has a devoted fan base, they don't want to be doing too much stuff. And then you have people like currently Bruce Willis, who in the last 3 years has been, I think, in 20 films.
I don't know if we count that, though. That's
well, I mean, just because you haven't heard of them doesn't mean you didn't do the work.
No, I know, but that's just Bruce Willis being Bruce Willis because nobody else will work with him. But like, there's a bunch of like, up and coming independent people who figured out I can get Bruce Willis for cheap, and then I can get a movie made.
Right. Or at least released, yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I think there's a good point to that. Gary, Mike, Culture, anybody else got anything to add to?
I agree. I think it's perfect.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Exactly.
Yeah, we had gone over this already, but absolutely, it's true. They're not there anymore.
Indeed. And I do feel like, the current age does have something to do with that. Black Angus Review says, "Hail Russian Iron Man." There's a Russian Iron Man?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's Crimson Dynamo. He's not here.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Then we got Dex Luther, who says, to add the Weird Al super chat, people get way offended over nothing these days. Imagine the crap he would get if he made if he made some of his parodies today. You got a point there, Dex Luther. People are way too fucking sensitive.
Yeah, people I don't think would resonate well to his Germs parody of that 9 Inch Nails song, I think from 20 years ago.
Some of his stuff in general, but like, I mean, I'm surprised they haven't called him like a homophobe and shit like that yet either. Because he has a lot of songs where he jokes about men dressing as women and stuff like that. And I mean, then some of them aren't even that old.
Well, Monty Python has men dressing as women.
Yeah, they're old enough to where John Cleese is just like, go fuck yourself when they try to cancel him, though.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, and then, I mean,
Yeah.
we had Eddie Izzard. He used to make fun of himself dressing like a woman. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't see there's anything wrong with it. It's like the old Bugs Bunny dressing up to fool Elmer Fudd. It's like, who else is he fooling? I mean, seriously.
Milt Berle did it. Yeah,
I can totally tell it's him.
Tango and Cash, right? 2-1 Foo. And
I just watched Some Like It Hot. That was actually a very progressive movie for the time. Holy shit.
Yeah. Wow.
I can't believe they allowed the shit they did. Of course, that was just before because it's not rated, because it was obviously before they had the rating system. So I'm sure that's why they got away with some of it. But yeah, Ironcaster says Bruce Willis is the new Nicolas Cage. Kind of. He actually has his own Razzie Award.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been some really bad Bruce Willis movies lately, which I really hate to see. It's embarrassing. Some of them are really bad.
No, I've heard they're pretty bad. I haven't seen Breach yet, but what was the one? I haven't seen it, but I bought it. The one that he came out with last year, wasn't it? Or am I thinking of somebody else? Mexican Iron Man thought it. Isn't one? Didn't he do one with Samuel Jackson or something like that last year?
Well, last year he did Cosmic Sin, Midnight in the Switch Glass, Out of Death, Survive.
What's the one where they train the killer, the chick?
Is that Apex?
The Protege?
The Protege?
Is he in there?
No.
That's Michael Keaton, isn't it?
Oh, that's Michael Keaton. Never mind, that's Michael
Keaton.
Yeah.
And Sam. Yeah,
That's what I knew. Samuel Jackson was in it. Hey, at least I mixed up the white guys.
Okay, all right.
Well, most of them are. Okay. Good job. I mean, great
Bruce,
research.
I'm just as racist against white motherfuckers as I am everybody else.
Okay, well,
Bruce Willis was in 8 movies.
Good
last
job.
Year.
Now you can see my confusion. Motherfuckers in 8 movies. Who knows if he wasn't in Protege?
8 terrible movies.
He
8
wasn't.
terrible movies.
I
Protege was a
saw
good
it. I
movie.
talked about it on the show.
I forgot it was Michael Keaton. I was thinking Bruce Willis for some reason because him and Samuel L. Jackson do a lot of movies together. Okay,
Yeah, and he's gonna be in 8
And I'm
movies
racist.
this year too. Like there's a
I'm gonna
time
try
when
for
you'd be
9
lucky if you
just because
got.
script doctor said I can't do it.
There was a time we'd be lucky if you had 3 Bruce Willis movies in like a 7-year period, and now you've got 16 in 2 years.
At least none of them are Die Hard movies. I can't believe I'd ever say that.
Right.
Normally, it'd be like Bruce Willis making all these fucking stupid movies. Least he could do is give us a decent Die Hard movie. After the last 2, I'm just like, no, Bruce, stay the fuck away from it. Leave it alone.
Wow.
Are you saying you didn't like the last 2?
Live Free or Die Hard was okay,
I thought it was pretty good.
but that
I like
one
that
in
one.
Russia was like pulling fucking teeth.
It was terrible.com.
And had Jai Courtney or whatever his name was in it playing his kid. And
Yeah.
this was that bad script that was going around online for years.
It looks like they were making it up as they went along through the movie.
Well, Live
I
Free
wish
or
that was the case.
Live Free or Die Hard was also a script that had been going around, and it wasn't a Die Hard script.
Well, none of them are except for the last one and the first one, technically.
Something else.
That's what I'm saying. That last Die Hard movie, the first one that has been written for a Die Hard movie, and it sucked so bad. And that was the one they had rejected a couple of years ago prior to that for a part 4.
You've seen him before. You'll see him again. You know how this ends. Bruce Willis. Die
Actually,
Hard.
Mike, they're trying to tell you how it begins. That was what they were going to do with Die Hard 6. Don't you remember that?
How what began?
Yeah, it was supposed to be a wraparound with Bruce Willis telling us how he became a detective. It's like that is kind of defeating the purpose. It's like it's going to be either it should be one of the most boring movies ever fucking made because that's kind of the point of Bruce Willis's character is he's just your schlub detective
Yeah.
who's never
It'd be like-
really dealt with anything like this before.
I'm sorry.
It'll be like, this is
you say? Wait. Did you say wrap around or reach around?
It's going to be more like a reach around.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure I heard that.
That was luckily though one of the movies that was in so far in pre-production when Fox got bought that it got canned. What were you going to say, Mike?
He'll be like when he graduates from Police Academy and go, hey, see, give me a gun. Okay. All right. Yippee-ki-yay.
They'll throw in a bunch of stupid lines just to connect it, Mike. So it'll be like he gets a gun. It's like, it's Christmas and I got a gun. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. Now I got a gun.
That would have been so bad, man.
And then his partner's going to be like, what kind of movies you like? I like comedies. I'm more partial to Westerns myself. Oh, yeah? You like Clint Eastwood? Nah, I'm more into Roy Rogers. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. All that stuff.
Oh, man.
That would have been so bad.
They do it too, just to be because they have nothing else to connect it to.
Yeah.
I mean, what's he supposed to do? Bring down some big crime lord or some shit? Be like, this is totally against character.
Yeah.
Like he's supposed to just be basically, your typical detective. We don't even really know what kind of detective it is. Do they ever really say? I think he investigates like
I
Is it
think it's
homicide. I think
narcotics.
he works in homicide, doesn't he?
Homicide or narcotics, yeah.
no,
Yeah.
actually, I think in the third film it sounds more like stolen property and fraud is the stuff that he covers.
Oh,
Yeah.
robbery. He might be
Yeah.
robbery homicide. Robbery homicide is
Robbery
the other.
homicide. Then
There
yeah.
you go.
Bruce Willis. Die Hard at the laundromat.
So he's basically dealing with like people robbing warehouses and shit. He's not dealing with like fucking criminal masterminds or nothing.
And laundromats.
And
Yeah.
laundromats, yeah.
The whole reason he was relatable was because he was just kind of an average guy with problems, His
Yeah, and he liked
marriage
his
is on
job.
the rocks. Yeah, and he was just like a normal guy, and then all of a sudden this was like the pinnacle of his life, this story of Die Hard.
Exactly.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked at all, man. That
Because
Yeah,
that's
he
kind of the
was.
point is he's gotten too comfortable where he's at. He doesn't want to move. He doesn't want to leave. He makes excuses. He's like, I got a backlog of fucking shit to get through. I can't just up and move. He's so engrossed in his own stupidity at that point. Like, it's just like, get the fuck out of there, man. But then Hans Gruber changes all that for him.
Hey, you come to LA, let's do some laundry.
I don't want to go to LA. There's no reason I would ever go to LA.
But she
And
says,
nor would I
gotta
ever make
help her-
fists with my toes.
But she says I gotta help her with the laundry.
Okay.
Someone's stealing quarters,
Oh man.
taking them out of circulation.
Something don't add up here.
Ugh.
Oh Lord, that would be so stupid. Lord Kamina says there's a Die Hard musical if you want. I'll send it. Oh shit, is
What?
it really?
No.
I hope this is a
No.
joke. You can
there's-
send it to me on Twitter, man, but I hope it's a
No.
joke.
No.
Ironcaster, yeah, I think Bruce Willis is the new Nicolas Cage. I think we have established that. Yes.
There can't be Die Hard.
Only he's more difficult to work with.
Actually, I'd say Nicolas Cage.
How
is a
do we
better
even know
actor.
he was in all these films? Maybe he just like CGI'd his facial likeness.
He shows up in script. Tell them he shows up for like what, like 2 or 3 days max.
Couple of days, yeah, that's
Yeah.
my understanding.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to hear some horror stories about Bruce Willis? And
Wait, what do you mean he shows up for 2 or 3 days and that's it? What are you talking about? He's got a whole movie to film.
he don't do shit.
His scenes,
Wait,
they
what?
shoot pretty quickly and haphazardly.
As much as I'm on the outs with Kevin Smith right now, he tells a great story about Bruce Willis. He didn't have the experience that the director of Live Free or Die Hard had with him, but then he got the full treatment during Cop Out. But he didn't realize that he heard afterwards, because what happened on Live Free or Die Hard, he'd fucking show up late. He'd stay in his trailer till they were ready to shoot. Then he'd get on the set and decide he don't want to do all these lines because he didn't memorize the script. And he'd say, "Well, put it in the hacker scene, the hacker scene." So Kevin Smith had to basically write the entire plot in his scene. So the director came to him. I got all this stuff for you got to get done in this scene, and he's like, "All right." And he went and took it and rewrote the whole fucking dialogue. So then that's half the reason why all the expositions in that scene. And then when they got to make Cop Out, Kevin learned firsthand what it was like to work with Bruce Willis. And I guess he was just an utter dickhole through the entire fucking movie, made everybody feel like shit, treated everybody like crap, especially like considering, I guess, what's his face? Tracy Morgan was dealing with some really bad shit with his diabetes at that time. I guess he had to have foot surgery and shit. So Tracy was like running and doing all these action stunts with this problem, and yet Bruce Willis was acting like a big prima donna, Kevin Smith said. Like he would fucking piss and moan and then take off and never show up, and all of his lines ended up getting shoved to everybody else because he was hardly ever on set, and he would get into blow up arguments all the time. He was just nothing but a dickhole, I guess.
Terrible.
That's pretty much why he's been blacklisted from Hollywood. Like
Yeah.
everybody's had enough of him.
Yeah, that's that's just awful. That's that's another reason why we don't have movie stars, and some of them just turn into complete assholes.
And I guess
Yeah.
he's been like that his whole life.
Yeah, I remember a buddy of mine who worked on, I think it's called Tears of the Sun.
Yep.
That was a first time director, and that was back in, I don't know, early 2000s. But he said he treated the director like absolute shit, no respect whatsoever. Just, I mean, I don't know what that director did afterward, but probably, what a horrible experience to go through. If that's your first time director, and these people just show up and treat you like absolute garbage.
Some
Horrible.
directors, I guess, he would be okay with, but that's just the ones that he would actually respect, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
ones that
guess.
actually had a career, like McTiernan and a few others.
Mhm.
Those are the only ones that ever work with him again.
The ones that gave him his career, right?
Pretty much, yeah. The only ones that he showed any respect, yeah.
Right. Terrible.
And no, yeah, if you're just joining the conversation, Brian, there's nothing wrong with long movies, but in general, there's no reason to let your director run willy-nilly with the running time if there's nothing but filler there. That was kind of the point we boiled it down to. And no, there is kind of an industry unsaid standard that Script had mentioned before, and
It's
I
pretty
agree
much
with it.
said, though. It's a
It
pretty
is
much
kind
said
of,
standard.
yeah, it kind of is, yeah. Especially in the 80s, it seemed to be pretty standard, right? Like you never had a comedy go more than 90 minutes. It was almost like a rule. You could never have like an action movie go more than an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours. Usually the only time you get to do more than 2 hours is if you're doing a biopic or an epic, right? Like that seemed to be the rule. Maybe a Godfather type movie, but what about long live streams? Well, we're going to try to make this one shorter.
And they're usually more interactive too, right? So
See, and I look at this. See, when I started this, I was brought in for the specific reason that I come from the world of radio, and we do everything in the world of radio in 4 to 6 hour blocks.
I know.
So I'm used to running a show for like 4 hours. That's no big deal.
Yeah, and I'm the polar opposite. I want to give you an hour of just amazing time and then run away.
Well, we're not going to hang out too much longer. I think we've pretty much hit.
Oh, no,
Culture.
I wasn't being negative.
Yeah, you were.
No,
Yeah,
I
you
wasn't.
were. You hurt my feelings, Culture.
You hurt
You're like
Mike's
you're
heart.
like I'm trying to be here for an hour, and Mike is making it longer and like devaluing your experience.
You hurt Mike's heart.
It's not what I said.
Dr. Coffin Nails, I'm with you. In my opinion, they need a damn good reason to make a movie more than 90 minutes.
Yeah. Dude, look, 69 minutes. That's the perfect number.
I'm gonna cry in my rabbit chicken.
You really should figure out somebody to make those plushies for real, Mike.
Well, except for Disney would probably sue his ass.
Why?
Because he'd probably sell more than them.
Of course he would. Rabbit chickens.
I'm gonna create a rabbit chicken merch store after March 15th.
Look at it. This guy always shows up just as we're wrapping things up. Look at this.
Oh.
Fashionably late as always.
Oh.
I know. I'm sorry.
I
just got home, so I figured I'd at least come say hi.
And I don't think I have to introduce you to Gary because I'm pretty sure you guys have met.
What's up, VR?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Gary sent me some really cool stuff that he put
Gary's
together.
awesome.
Oh yeah, love Gary to death. So what's up, guys?
Well, we just first we started off the show getting to know Gary for those who don't, and then we talked about Charlie Cox confirming Daredevil's return, and then we had that article from Variety about how runtime of movies, and then we had counter to that with the streaming supersizing shows. So that's pretty much what we've been talking about for most of the show.
Yeah, and then we
talked
talked
a little
about
bit in the beginning, but
yeah. Then you forgot the most important part of the show today was how many movies did Bruce Willis suck in this year?
8.
Yeah.
What is the name of that award show? The
Razzies.
Razzies. Oh, okay, that's right. The Razzies do the Bruce Willis Award. Yeah. Oh man, classic.
We should have a Razzie Award for worst mead guest. I nominate Valiant.
For worst what?
Mead guest.
Oh, worst
And I
mead
said
guest.
Why are
Oh,
you
I'll
trying to
take it.
start a fight with Valiant now?
Because my
I
feelings are
will.
still hurt from Culture Casino.
Why are you taking it out on Valiant?
Because I love Culture more.
Oh wow, this
Oh,
is some weird
God.
dynamic.
I'm kidding.
No, this is like a fucking soap opera now.
Why am I in the middle? Why?
I don't know.
This just
I
turned
don't
into
know.
a fucking
That's how I
soap
feel on
opera.
Twitter most days. That's why I was like, oh God, I gotta
Dude,
get
you
off
get
the damn thing.
hammered on Twitter. Like, I don't even want to respond to oh my God, you get hammered.
I get tagged in stuff. I get tagged in Twitter fights. And it's like I don't want to be involved in this. Leave me alone.
Do people
I
even
don't
do these people
understand
that
that.
hate you even watch all your videos like to the end? Like, do they even dude, you get hammered. You get hammered like Tom gets hammered.
Yeah.
I mean, part of me is like, thank
Girls
you
like
for
that.
thinking enough of me to, value my opinion and my takes on things. But at the same time, I'm like, God, man, come on. I don't,
Well, let's
I don't,
check
I
into
don't
the
need to be
poll.
tagged in all the time.
Speaking of takes, let's see how. Well, overwhelmingly, people are definitely interested in revisiting the intermission, which I was always sad went away. But between the multiplexes and the studios, they do not like intermission.
If you're going to make me sit through a film that's longer than 2 hours, I need a potty break. Damn it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, if I'm sitting there watching, I remember 20 years ago sitting through 3.5 hours of Return of the King, and I'm like, oh God, I had to, I hated having to get up and go pee.
Yeah.
Most
They
movies
have
like
an
you
app.
give me 2 hours, I'm good. But 3 hours, I'm sitting there. You've had a big drink or something at that point. It's like, all right, I got to go.
But Valiant, there's an app for that. It's called Run Pee, and you sync it up with when the movie starts. And then it tells you the
Oh, I've
best
heard of it.
opportunities to go to the bathroom.
Wait, he didn't make this up. This is for real?
That's for
No,
real.
it is. No,
Yeah.
it's a real thing. Like they tell you, like, here's the best time. I remember when Avengers Endgame came out in
Yeah.
2019.
Run Pee.
They had a whole article it was either Deadline or THR or Variety or one of those big magazines talking about, okay, look, this movie's whatever it was almost 3 hours long. And they said when you get to the scene where Hulk is in the diner talking about stuff, that's your chance to get up and go take a leak because nothing really goes on right there. You've got a good solid 7 minutes run to the toilet.
7 minutes. Wow.
Well,
Or
you know,
whatever it
when you
was. Yeah.
sitting around tables talking about your feelings, even back then they recognized this is boring as F. But you know, this is the part that this is where you should go to the bathroom, get another meal, whatever. So, of course, if anybody was paying attention, as Valiant said, everybody got up and left the theater at that point to go. It was kind of an intermission.
Yeah.
Now
it
that
sorta
Valiant's
was.
here, I'm going to go take an intermission break. Bye.
There you
my.
go.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Hillis Mallory says Valiant Renegade, good vid on that Star Wars thing. Which
Hell
one?
yeah.
So many
Oh,
Star
thank
Wars.
you, man. Thank you, Hillis. Well, I had a video this morning come out that I recorded last night, just talking about some of the early leaks from the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel. Basically walking back through a brief history of how this thing came about, all the stuff that had happened over the years with the Disney Imagineers original plans, and then some of the footage and pictures that were put out, you know, looking at this thing going, good Lord, you know, $6,000. And it looks like, I'm sorry, that concert hall or whatever they had in this leaked video, and that I actually put the video into my video, just turned the sound off. It just looks like a ballroom at the airport Hilton that they dressed up.
It's basically Star Wars. Well, what they think Star Wars version of 10 Forward would be is what it is.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It looks, 10 Forward on the Enterprise is not a bad comparison. I tell you what, the thing that stuck out at me the most was the fact that I've got some business clients that I've been working with for years, some good friends. They do some just, oh my God, they do some amazing work. They build events from the ground up, and they do high-end stuff. Like if you've got 2, 3, 4, 5 million to spend on a massive party, you call these guys. They do custom lighting, they build custom furniture, custom pieces, custom bars, custom everything. I mean, they build it's just spectacular what they do. I love what they do. And I'm looking at this going, I got to call my buddy over there that runs this company, because if he probably sees this, and I don't know how much into Star Wars he really is, but if he sees this and I tell him, hey, man, this is what Disney built for a Star Wars hotel for $6,000 a night, he would probably laugh himself to death. I mean, this guy has done stuff for Super Bowls, for NCAA tournaments. This guy has done $2 million weddings for Bill Gates' daughter. This guy, I mean, he's done all kind of stuff. I mean, they build out some cuckoo stuff, and Disney didn't even look like they put half the effort in he does to a 4-hour wedding.
But VR, did you cover all of the things that were budget cut out of the hotel also?
I did not go into specifics. We did bring up the fact that obviously there were a lot of cuts. A lot of the things that were originally supposed to be in Galaxy's Edge, were promised to be part of Galaxy's Edge, were then removed and shunted to this new hotel for a $6,000 paywall. Well, basically the whole immersion experience, the whole 100% immersion experience was supposed to be what Galaxy's Edge was, the whole park.
Yeah, it was sold that way.
Yeah, that's the way it was originally done. And to the credit of the Disney Imagineers, that is what they had originally engineered. Yeah. And then things got changed. I think we've all heard the famous stories of Kennedy having stepped in and convinced them that, you know, we need to not do Tatooine and Hoth and Endor and all that. We got more new Star Wars coming forward. Let's do that instead. Then the budget cuts came, then the COOF came, the lockdowns, the cash flow problems, and everything started getting pulled back. Until we got basically great value brand Star Wars. We got Walmart Star Wars now at Disney.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they cut the Bantha attraction, the theater that was the dinner theater that was supposed to be attached to the cantina. That was in the
question is, do I get to ride a Bantha?
No, like a Bantha.
Fuck.
No, you were going to get to ride a Bantha. That's the weird thing, right? I mean, and even some of the infrastructure for this immersion was actually put into the parks, or at least into one of them, and yet, it was abandoned essentially. And, again, Disney, it used to be really good at designing, fully surround you kinetic experiences. This is one of the first park expansion areas where they don't have that. All they have is sound effects that insinuate that.
So I have a question for Gary, since he's worked for Disney, been around Disney, and I know even recently dealt with Disney third hand via props related to Disney shows. How do these people think, and what are they really like in terms of the behind the scenes stuff?
Well, that depends. As far as the suits, I never really met him, but back in the day, uh, really, I mean, let's just put it this way: as a perfect example of how these people behave, I was shorted my last paycheck on Pirates of the Caribbean without without explanation, without any way to grieve about it. Really,
Yeah, what
that's
are you
just
gonna
what
do,
they do.
right? Yeah.
That's exactly how they operate.
You're talking about on the film production, Gary?
Yeah, yeah. And that was back in 2000. When was the second one? It was like 2004 or 2005 or something.
Were you employed directly by Disney, or were
Yes.
you with a separate outfit?
I was employed. Well, I guess it was in house, but it was a production. It was the production company, but it was on the Disney lot. So maybe it was a third party. But
No, I was just curious. I didn't know
flat
like if you
out
were getting paychecks from Disney itself
from Disney. Yes, I
okay,
got paid
that's
by
okay.
Disney,
That's why I was
and
curious.
they just you would go to the office and the office was closed down. And you had no way to the phone's disconnected. It's really bad. Like
Nice.
it's really shady.
That's shit.
Yeah, it was terrible. But the art department crew, they compensated me, which was very nice of them. They were
Well,
good people.
at least that's decent.
Oh yeah, I definitely got compensated. But yeah, that's pretty much that's my personal experience, Mike, about how Disney operates. I mean,
Common tale.
yeah.
They don't like to pay
I mean,
people.
and then going in, don't you feel like, oh, I'm working on a Disney show, the magic and the this and the that?
Okay,
it's gonna be awesome. And
that's interesting, Mike, because yes, you do, and they like to draw in people like that because they know that they don't know any better, and they know that they can get away with more shenanigans with those kind of people than they can with some of the old school, the Teamster guys that they know exactly how to operate. The guys who have been there for 20, 30, 40 years, the old school guys, they know how this stuff goes. The newer, younger people like myself at the time, they don't know shit. And like you said, it's, oh my gosh, this is Pirates of the Caribbean, the movie. How exciting to work on this. Isn't this great? And then all of a sudden you don't have a job anymore or a paycheck.
I can give you a great story on that. And it was probably a little over maybe 25, 27 years ago now. I was in high school at the time. And I had some good friends that her parents owned, and they still run it. It's one of the biggest Mardi Gras related companies here in New Orleans. They produce a lot of throws, costumes, beads, cups, plush toys, all kind of stuff. They mostly focus around Mardi Gras now, but they supply, I think, about 40 or 50 different Mardi Gras crews down here now, which is big. Back in the 90s, I remember vividly when my friend's her dad was going through negotiations with the Walt Disney Company. They wanted, like Disney had approached them. They wanted them to, be one of the mass production facilities for a lot of Disney plush toys. And of course, my friend's dad, he was trying to figure out a way. I mean, it's Disney. It was the same thing. Oh my God. Yeah, we'd love to have a freaking Disney. I mean, they've hit the penultimate thing in life here for what they do in terms of a business perspective. But the numbers just never worked. Basically, Disney was going to walk away with, they wanted to put them in such a point to where it's like, you're going to produce all this volume and the margins on it was next to nothing. Basically, my friend's dad was going to make diddly squat in terms of a percentage. The return on investment was going to be low and potentially very high risk financially for them. But that's how Disney operated even back then. When they would try to contract with other folks. And I'm not saying that is, exclusive to Disney folks. Walmart has been notorious for that over time. So anyway, that's not the first time.
No,
I've
but
heard
Mickey
that,
does
Gary.
like to swing his tail around. I've heard. Yeah.
He does. But fortunately, my friend's dad decided, you know what, I can't make this work, and he walked away from it. And let me tell you what. They are, 25, 27 years later now from when that happened. They are far, far better off financially, business-wise, everything. So yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Well, and Brian Barth brought us some breaking news here. Yes, Quentin Tarantino is going to be directing at least 1 or 2 episodes, it sounds like, of the Elmore Leonard Justified I think they're doing a movie or a miniseries kind of thing or whatever type deal, miniseries type deal. He's going to be directing a couple episodes of that. And not only that, he's going to be narrating a new show called Super Pumped, The Battle for Uber. So
wow. So they basically, a bowl of cocaine is going to be delivered and he's going to narrate it from his room?
probably.
Okay.
Wow.
God.
I don't care.
Culture,
Quentin
talk about
Tarantino
not-
can do whatever he wants.
Culture, you don't seem like you have any faith in Hollywood.
What?
Let's not go there at this point. Tom's trying to close the show.
I
that's right.
love Quentin Tarantino. Just don't be messing with my man.
Dude, yeah, there are two people in Hollywood that are perfectly fueled by coke. One of them created a film called Congo. And the other one
Stop baiting him.
is trying to kill Bill. I'm just saying.
Oh, here we go.
I never touched that motherfucker. Got nothing against Bill. He's a nice guy.
Okay.
God.
Why you
Did that
keep telling
culture?
people I'm killing Bill? Oh, you meant Congo.
Congo.
You have zero proof that I do the cocaine.
Except that, what?
You heard me, motherfucker.
It's all that white powder on Kathy's dress every morning she shows up to wear.
Oh,
I don't think
It's
he
not
allows.
mine, it's Frank's.
Stop eating my sesame cake.
See,
I had a
can
poppy seed muffin. Nothing.
I can
No,
make
you get
any,
some fucked up on poppies, man.
I can make any show go longer when Tom's here.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
I'm out. All right, kids. I want to thank Gary specifically for being here
Yeah.
tonight. Been wanting to do this for a while. Hopefully we get him on the morning show as well soon. So happy that you could finally join us tonight, Gary. That was awesome. Thank you.
It was
for
my
being here.
pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. I really
addition
appreciate
to
it.
MEAD. Definitely.
Thank
Do you have a
Thanks,
YouTube channel or anything you want us to promote? Or
Not anything. I mean, I have one, but it's, you know, I don't monetize it or anything. It's just for goofy little crap I put up, you know. But I will if I could, my wife runs
Absolutely.
a bunny rescue in Carmel, California, and if I could pop the link in the chat, I would appreciate if you guys gave it a look.
you
She
actually have a
rescues-
wrench, so you can share the link
Oh,
yourself.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that. So I'll
Did you
do
say
that.
a bunny rescue?
Yes, a bunny rescue.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't
yeah.
know that.
Yeah,
Are you
it's called-
interested in some rabbit chickens? They are part bunny.
Oh,
Wow.
Lord, here we go.
Yeah,
I know what
and-
commercial we're going out on now.
Maybe.
Right. Yeah, and so I'll put that in the chat. But yeah, again, thanks guys for having me. I really appreciate being
Yeah,
being
Gary's
invited.
wife runs a bunny rescue, so please help donate to there. And sometimes you do auctions to help as well, right?
Yeah, I actually start sifting through some of my boxes of movie memorabilia in here, and sometimes I put a few things up, and you know, you never know. I find little bits of treasure in this place, and they're always affordable. You know, I'm not interested.
Wait,
in
where
hawking
do you
this stuff.
post the auctions for that, Gary?
My wife does that, and whenever she does an auction, I give the whatever show I'm on. I usually promote that through the.
Oh yeah, I want the link to whatever website that is. 'cause
Okay,
you-
I'll-
Yeah,
you
he's
have a
auctioned off some cool stuff.
You have
Yeah,
a
we'll-
treasure trove in there.
We'll talk, man. Give me your
Yeah.
email, and I'll, you know, I can always.
No, but I
pass
just meant
some
for the
things
chat
along.
too. I'm sure there's a lot of people out here that would love to
Yeah, well,
bid on some of that stuff, man, because you have some sweet stuff.
absolutely. Whenever we actually do one, I put the link up. We don't have one running right now, but
Okay.
I as soon as I do, absolutely, I will promote it.
And DCV Titan points out that white stuff on KK's dress isn't cocaine.
Yikes.
Ooh, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Talcum powder.
Yeah, let's just go with that.
Let's say that. But yeah, thank you for being here, Gary. And of course, Culture, but Valiant for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here as well. And of course, my partners is Crime Script Doctor and Mexican Iron Man, whom I couldn't do this show without. Is there anything anybody wants to plug on the way out the door?
I have a list that is laminated.
Of shows that you are on?
No. I thought you were asking who we were going to plug or who we'd like to plug.
Yeah, if I say her name on air, I'll probably
what?
get involved.
Oh.
What?
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Oh, plug like a show. I thought. I'm sorry.
No.
Never mind.
Okay, you
Is that your
two-
hall pass list from the boss? Is that what you're talking about, Culture?
I think
Oh.
everybody has one, right?
Not really.
Yeah,
Go
I
get a
have.
room.
No.
No. Me and Script Doctor like no. No. See, me and Script Doctor civilized. We're like, no.
I don't
Like
mean
it's ever,
one.
like it's ever going to happen.
You never know who you'll meet in an elevator.
Yeah, I know. I keep
I
telling
met
my wife.
Q in an elevator once.
What?
Wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, the actor who plays Q.
Oh, John Delancey?
Yeah, he's a tall motherfucker.
Oh, yeah. He's like, what is he, 6'5" or something?
So's Larroquette. Both he and Larroquette are really tall. My God.
Yeah, Larroquette I've met. He's from New Orleans, actually.
He's crazy tall.
But right there's the link. If you want to help out the bunny rescue, there
Please
you
do.
go.
Please
The
do.
bunny trail rescue. I'm sorry. That's the
Yeah.
actual name.
I always accidentally call it the Bunny Ranch. That's how I refer to it. You know? And that's how I get all my guy friends to go check it out.
Well,
Hey,
help
that's
the
what it
ladies.
is,
I
guys.
mean, the bunnies need my help.
Yeah.
Well, that right there is the cause Mexican Iron Man can get behind, if you know
Exactly.
what I mean.
They'll
right?
get behind it all
Yeah.
night long.
They always get pissed off. They're like, "What the fuck is this? This is rabbits or some bullshit."
Well,
Where's
they
the
got
Yeah, but you
broads,
clicked on it. Too late.
right? Exactly. Got what I needed. Click.
She already got that ad revenue.
Oh shit. All right, kids, let's wrap this up. I want to thank Gary again for your time, and again, hopefully we'll have you on again real soon.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, kids. Take care of yourselves, and I guess we got to go out on the rabbit chicken.
Do you like rabbit? Do you like chicken? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have both at the same time but can never find both at the same place? Well,
I
Disney and Shang-Chi have taken care of that for you. That's right. You can get yourself rabbit chicken meat, now available at every Walmart and Costco.
What you waiting for? Move your feet and get some rabbit chicken meat.
It's good.